Hi, this is Courtney Act. Do not go anywhere because I am coming up very, very soon on Profiles.
Welcome to Profiles. I'm Lauren Luciano. Today's guest is pop singer, entertainer, and drag queen Courtney Act. Courtney has competed as a finalist on both Australian Idol and RuPaul's Drag Race. She has opened for Lady Gaga, starred in Rent, and sang a duet with Idina Menzel, and now travels the world with her acclaimed solo show titled Boys Like Me. In her show, the multi-talented drag idol sings her favorite songs and divulges the fascinating and funny dirty laundry list that encompasses her comedy. After a short break, we'll join our host, Mickey Burns, as he welcomes superstar drag queen Courtney Act to Profiles. Welcome back to Profiles. I'm Lauren Luciano. Courtney Act was born Shane Jennick in Brisbane, Australia. He later moved to Sydney at the age of 18. He took the stage name Courtney Act. In 2003, Shane Jennick tried out for Australian Idol. Not quite making the cut, he returned the next day in drag as Courtney Act. This time, he made it through to the finals. Courtney's energetic performing style, coupled with her joyous personality, sent audiences wild, and Australia had a new sweetheart. So let's join our host, Mickey Burns, on location from the Iroquois Hotel in the heart of New York City, as he welcomes the talented Courtney Act to Profiles.
Well, you would if you could. I don't be misunderstood. They might not ask to do things twice before you take one up. They live in West Hollywood. Well, you would if you could. I don't be misunderstood. They might not ask to do things twice before you take one up.
Courtney Act, welcome to our show Profiles.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure meeting you today.
Here by the fireplace. It's almost romantic.
Well, you're currently appearing at the Beekman Theater for your third encore engagement of your show, and it's called Boys Like Me, which is really has been receiving rave reviews. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Chita Rivera, after seeing the play, this is what she said. She said, "I was immediately mystified, amazed by the dazzled beauty and talent of this extraordinary man."
Chita's actually coming back on Thursday night to see the show.
She loves you.
Yeah, and I love her. How could you not?
How can you not? And for those who haven't seen your show, share with us what it's all about.
It basically came together because I was journaling. And I was writing all of these different stories, and there's some really fun and fascinating stories in there because I have the unique experience, I guess, of living life on the gender divide. Sometimes I'm a girl, and sometimes, Mickey, I don't want to alarm you, I am a boy. And
today you're a woman.
Today I'm a woman. I feel like a career woman in New York City, strutting through on my high heels.
Yes.
With my hair is made out of recycled shopping bags, so it flows lovely.
So you're
in the
going
New York
green
City
today.
wind. Yeah, I'm going green. But yeah, the show is basically about my different experiences living life on the gender divide, and it seemed to be that a lot of the stories that I told people that were hysterical had to do with the dirty laundry that is my sex life. So they're all about different experiences with different people, and I kind of explore the Kinsey scale, basically, through all of my stories.
And, of course, what you haven't mentioned is that you're also an extraordinary singer.
Well, thank
and
you.
have been for many years.
I have.
And we'll talk about that in a minute, because you're from Australia.
That's correct.
And I'm still looking to hear that accent, where you became well-known when you made it as an American Idol finalist for your singing prowess. And later opened for Lady Gaga's Australian tour, which we'll talk about. But is it true? I found it fascinating that you first auditioned for the Australian Idol as Shane Jennick. That was your birth name?
Yeah.
And
still my name.
Yes, and got rejected.
Yeah.
The following day, you showed up as Courtney Act, and you made it. What are your thoughts about that scenario, and did they know that you were in drag the second day?
Well, they knew that I was in drag, but they didn't know that I'd come the day before.
They did not know.
And so I just had this feeling when I was there that I was meant to be there.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where, I went along as a boy, I got knocked back, and I was like, no, this isn't right. I'm meant to be here. Like, I had a knowing. And then I was like, oh, coming back tomorrow in drag. That's easy. And so I went along the next day, and when I walked in the room, I said, I had like a wheelie bag, and I said something about it. I'm not a flight attendant, I'm a drag queen. And they all kind of chuckled, and they were like, what, you're a drag queen? And there was a lot of talk. One of the judges, who was kind of the Simon Cowell of our year, actually became a real supporter of me. And one of the things that he said, which I think is true, is he said there was a lot of boys just like Shane who came along the day before. There was thousands of young blonde boys singing songs. Not all of them Elton John, as I was singing.
Right.
But I think I turned up the next day dressed as Courtney, and added an extra element.
You sure did.
And there was lots of blonde boys, but there was only one Courtney Act. So
how far did you get in the contest?
Well, it's funny because I got knocked out, and then I came back in the wild card round, and I made it into the top 12. And then when I got booted out, they kept bringing me back because I guess I was popular with the audience. And I hosted the red carpet of the kind of Australian equivalent of the Grammys for Idol. I was the opening act of the final episode, and it was at the Sydney Opera House.
Oh, that's a beautiful
and
place.
It was outdoors with the sails in the background, and it was the most watched television event since Princess Diana's funeral.
Wow.
It was like a big, like thousands of screaming people.
Right. Now, Courtney is not a biological woman, as we've mentioned, right? She is a man.
Yeah.
Explain to us what transgender means.
Well, transgender is an interesting term, and there's a lot of focus on it at the moment. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. He was a prince this morning.
Very good.
Transgender is an interesting term because it can mean anything. So we usually think of gender as being binary, as male or female.
Yes.
And quite often, even myself, I used to put it into those categories, and I've just recently become aware that transgender is kind of deviating from, the gender that the sex that you were assigned at birth. I myself don't identify as transgender, but I'm a drag performer. Perhaps I'm genderqueer, which is kind of like, not being put in a box of male or female. But transgender is usually, but not always, somebody who is born one sex and their gender expression is different from the sex that they were assigned at birth. So they go through a process of becoming the person that they feel they are inside.
Right. In your romantic life, do you date men or women?
In my romantic life, I date men dressed as Shane.
Got it.
So I wouldn't date somebody like this, because the hair's just too. I would go on a one-night date, perhaps, with somebody like this, but not an actual out-for-dinner date.
Right. As Courtney, right?
As Courtney.
Do you see the world differently as a woman as opposed to Shane?
Yeah.
And how so?
I mean, that's one of the most fascinating things, because people react differently to me whether I'm dressed as Shane and Courtney. And
I'm sure.
The world looks the same through my eyes. Like, whether I'm Shane or Courtney, it all looks the same, but I get a completely different response. And it's just kind of fascinating. To sort of hold the power of a woman. I think that the power of a woman is something really fascinating. And I don't even think that a woman could appreciate what the power of a woman is, because they have it and they don't know any different.
Yeah.
But for me, I get to put it all on and see the way, particularly straight men, react. And it's kind of fascinating.
Is it better to walk the earth as a man or a woman?
I mean, it's different. I don't think one's better or worse. I get to take it off. So I think that's one of the advantages. I don't know whether there's a lot of, catcalling and hey toots and, all of that sort of stuff, which I find amusing and fun. I don't know if it would be 24/7 though.
Now, interestingly, FHM magazine listed you among the world's top 100 sexiest women.
Right.
It's a men's magazine.
Yeah. It's still one of my proudest achievements to date.
But what are your thoughts about that honor? And I think it is an honor.
It is an honor.
So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts were I just get a real kick out of that. I mean, I love doing what I do, and one of the reasons that I love doing what I do is because quite often people are forced to think differently when they see me. Like a man might be like, "Whoa, she's hot," and they're like, "Hang on, that's a bloke," and they have to kind of go through this moment. And they're forced to think differently about something. You know, gender, we usually look at somebody and it's one of the first assumptions that we make. There's a man, there's a woman. We don't even think about it. And so when FHM magazine bestowed me with a title of 100 Sexiest Women,
Whoa.
it's really, and you know, that's a magazine, they're probably not, you know, following Courtney Act on Facebook, the gentlemen that read that magazine.
Yeah.
Most of them probably don't even know, which is the really subversive part about, I guess what I do is that...
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Now, let's do some backtracking real quick, because you began your show business career as Shane Jennick.
Yeah.
Hosting a children's program in Australia called SNICK, which was Australian's Nickelodeon network in 2001.
You've done your research. I like that.
Yeah, I had never seen SNICK, but it sounded like an interesting show.
Yeah.
How did you originally get into drag then, and when was Courtney Act born?
Yeah, I moved to Sydney when I was 18. A friend got me a job working on Nickelodeon as a kids' TV host.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, I moved to Sydney at the age of 18.
Right.
And
this was your life.
This was my life. It's funny, though, because it was a Saturday night show, and we filmed 4 episodes in one day. And for an 18-year-old to only be working 1 day a month gave me a little bit too much time. And
what did you do with that time?
I started doing drag. I realized that I was gay. I came out.
Right.
I started going to the nightclub scene of Sydney, which was still very much ignited from the Priscilla Queen of the Desert kind of era.
Great movie.
Great movie. And I just kind of fell in love with drag and performing, and it seemed like a really great creative outlet for me as an entertainer to be able to do it regularly and get paid. And
so much for Nickelodeon.
Yeah, and then I got a call from Nickelodeon saying my services were no longer available. But that wouldn't happen in 2014.
I guess not. I guess it wouldn't.
We were standing there, we were talking. It could have been like 2 minutes or it could have been 20 minutes. I honestly don't know. It was just one of those moments. And I truly believe that he didn't realise that I'm not really a woman, and I totally forgot that I'm actually a man. And well, I was just a girl, and he was just a boy, and we were just falling in love. A little fling is happening at the Valley. A drag queen and a real Marine, what sparks? I wish Jose would bring my keys to the driveway. Hey! We are waiting at the Valley.
You recently said, when I first started out, drag was very themed, as we mentioned, like the film Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. How has it changed today?
Wow, you know, drag goes through evolutions, just like any sort of fashion. I mean, in the 70s in Australia, drag was very much about female illusion and female impersonation, and I believe in
lip syncing to the latest hits.
Yeah, and now, I mean, RuPaul's Drag Race has really influenced drag.
Yes.
You see, on Drag Race, they talk about different styles of drag. There's pageant drag, there's realness, there's comedy drag. So there's really lots of factions of drag.
And of course, you were on the RuPaul Drag Race in season 6. Was it a good experience for you?
It was a fun experience. Being there and filming it was, it was kind of magical, because you get to wake up each morning and do what you love, but it's held to a really high standard.
I'm sure.
Because it's going to be on television.
Yeah, to millions of people.
Yeah, and the challenges are things like, you know, a TV hosting challenge or a musical theatre challenge or a makeover challenge. And it's fun to get to flex different muscles that you don't get to do every day.
Yeah, and of course, RuPaul.
Yeah.
How instrumental has he been in what you do?
I mean, Ru is the matriarch of drag.
He is.
Like, I remember in the 90s being at dance school and some of the other boys bringing a cassette. A cassette is it's what we call MP3s now.
Yeah.
The kids brought in a cassette, and I remember looking at this creature, and I didn't really know what it meant. But I knew that I loved it, and for years, you know, we didn't have the RuPaul show in Australia. We didn't have as much access to Ru as you do in America. So when YouTube came about, I just remember sitting there at home, like watching every little clip of RuPaul I could find, because the thing that I love about RuPaul as well is that he approached drag with a different sensibility. A lot of drag is kind of like, can be comedy, or it can be, there can be like a not a darkness, but like a sarcastic sort of tone to it. Whereas Ru just had this really inspiring message, and that's what I really loved about Ru, and that's what I still love about Ru.
Yeah. Now you also have been on a world tour. I mean, you're not just here in New York.
A whirlwind tour.
Yes, and you've had stops in London, Hong Kong, San Francisco, L.A., and Las Vegas. But my question is the reaction to your show the same everywhere, or does it differ city from city and country to country?
It differs, definitely differs actually, which has been interesting. I mean, in the US, I've been everywhere from New York to LA to San Francisco to, you know, Mobile, Alabama to Albuquerque to, you know, everywhere in between. And it differs from city to city there. The way people watch the show, the way people, there's this different culture all across America. And that was one thing that I didn't realize when I lived in Australia, is how diverse America is. Because you think of it as being one country, you see it on television, you know LA, you know New York. And then I got here and I was like, oh my God, like from Seattle to Chicago to, like, all of these cities are so different and the people are different. And in America, I've learned to speak more slowly because sometimes my accent can be challenging to understand. So yeah, it's always different going to different places.
Right. Your favorite country to perform in is?
America.
All right.
All of them, actually.
I'm just testing you,
No,
Courtney.
everywhere has got a unique flavor, and it's just so much fun getting to experience all of that.
Right. Now, I read somewhere that you became recently, not a while back, with close friends with Chaz Bono, Cher's son.
Yeah.
And that you often have lengthy discussions with him about sexuality and gender. I also read somewhere that there were rumors that the two of you were considering marriage.
This was a great rumor. The National Enquirer.
What's the truth?
It was in print. Well, the truth is that we are just good friends. I love Chaz, but not in a romantic way. He's a great guy, and it's been really wonderful being friends with him because he is a heterosexual man, but he got there through very different means than most heterosexual men. And so he has this really unique experience as well, and a unique outlook. And I love getting to talk to him and getting his straight man's point of view, but without any... he has no fear of, maybe a straight man might be like, oh, God, if I say that, what does that mean? Chaz is like, it's an open book. And I've read his book, actually, Becoming Chaz. It's a great book. But he's a really lovely and interesting guy, really intelligent and thoughtful.
So the friendship continues. Marriage is out.
No romance.
All right. Okay.
As fun as it would be to call Cher my mother-in-law, and sometimes I do, just as a joke.
Right. Who were some of the people, Courtney, in show business that continue to inspire you?
There's a lot. Lady Gaga, who we've talked about.
Yes.
I mean, Cher is an inspiration to drag queens everywhere.
I think.
The thing that I love about Cher, I love that old school. The Bob Mackie costumes, the Las Vegas shows. Bette Midler.
Absolutely.
I love. The thing that I love about Bette is storytelling. I do a lot of storytelling in my show, and I do love that about her. My parents are people who inspire me. They're not in showbiz, but they inspire me.
Are you still close with your parents?
Yeah, very
close.
close.
How did they take to
the drag situation?
Yes, the drag, yes.
They love it.
Really?
Yeah. when I came out to them as gay,
Yes.
I was filled with all sorts of nerves about, you know, there's all these horror stories.
Yeah.
And I really put myself through it. And I came out by a text message. And back in 2001, before text messaging was really a thing, I was quite a pioneer. And I texted, I am gay. And Mum was like, that's nice, dear, we'll see you at dinner. And I was like, is that it? Is that it? You're not going to disown me. You're not going to, you know, tell me I'm wrong. And that's one thing that I'm so grateful for with my parents, is that they've never made me feel like who I wasn't right. Being able to have that relationship with your parents is something that really does give you a strong foundation.
And if you did find the man,
Yeah.
Would you also like to raise a family?
I think about this. I used to. Now that I'm in my 30s and my career, I'm like, I don't know if I've got time for raising a family, but it would be really fun. I was doing my show last week, and there was a girl in the audience who was 11, and it's not a crass show, but there's definitely adult themes. And I was like, well, where's your mother? And she was like, in Texas. And I was like, are you here with your gay uncles? And she was. And I think being a gay uncle would be a fun substitute for parent.
Well said.
Yeah.
What's up next for Courtney Act? I know you have a busy schedule, but tell us what's coming up after the show is done here in New York. What's coming up?
I'm still just touring around doing shows. I'm off to, there's this festival called Burning Man.
Where is it?
It's 2 hours north of Reno. It's an arts festival that happens in the middle of the desert. There's 60,000 people. It's kind of like a modern-day Woodstock in the desert.
Sounds interesting.
It is. One of the sort of precepts of Burning Man is about radical self-expression. So there's people wearing everything from nothing to, you know, big elaborate costumes, and it's a week-long festival. So I'm going to perform there, but also go and stay and have fun with all of my friends. And then I'm off to Europe for a tour around. I'm doing all around Northern Ireland and the UK and through Europe, Berlin, Stockholm. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm working on new music, which is exciting. I've been working on an album that'll be coming out next spring, and
that's great.
Getting that together.
Well, I did want to ask you, though, because your show has been so successful, each night at its conclusion, what do you hope that those in attendance leave with?
Well, I do the show, and it's one of the things that I like to think about before I start the show. I think, what do I want from this show, and what do I want for the audience from this show?
Yeah.
And I hope that through my stories, although they're, you know, funny and sometimes they sound trivial, each one I hope to articulate that the world isn't black and white. You know,
it's not.
We think that it's we have this concept that it's polarized. You're a man, you're a woman, you're gay, you're straight. It's black, it's white. But we see it with race. Yeah. We see that there are people who are black, there are people who are white, and there are all colors in between. And I think all of life is like that. And, you know, sexuality, gender, and everything else. And so I hope that people kind of hear all of the stories and they're like, you know what? It's our similarities that are greater than our differences.
Well said. Courtney Act, thanks for stopping by today for Profiles. It's a pleasure meeting you. Just want to wish you continued success with your solo show, Boys Like Me.
That's it.
Continued rave reviews coming in. Best of luck with it and everything else you do.
Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. Have a wonderful day.
Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers.
Making love on a train in Moscow. French kiss on the steps of the Kremlin. Getting freaky in Leningrad. We are lovers, we are lovers. To Russia with love. To Russia with love. To Russia with love. Yeah, we're not going back.
On RuPaul's Drag Race, Courtney Act was one of the final 3 contestants. She impressed the judges with her realistic female impersonations and received rave reviews for both her looks and singing ability. There's a reason FHM named her one of the world's top 100 sexiest women, despite not actually being a woman. She continues to impress audiences around the world with her new show, Boys Like Me, where she sings, dances, and speaks frankly about her most interesting life, all while in drag. Well, that's about all the time we have left on this edition of Profiles. Until next time, I'm Lauren Luciano. Thanks for tuning in.